I think the E3 want to stave off a coming crisis. Their only lever on Iran in nuclear terms is to launch snapback sanctions, to snap back the UN sanctions that were lifted under the 2015 nuclear deal. But the deadline to do that is coming up fast. So I think the E3 want to use the leverage while they have it to get Iran back to the negotiating table. And I think at this stage, they think the best way to do that is to agree an extension of the deadline for snapback sanctions to give more time for compromise between Iran and the United States.
How long does the extension need to be in your view?
I think that even with an extension, it's going to be very, very difficult to get a new Iran nuclear deal. I think since the conflict, Iran's red lines have become very clear, and that is that there needs to be some kind of guarantee of no future US or Israeli attack on Iranian nuclear sites if they're to be part of a deal. And also, the right to domestic uranium enrichment has become such an important symbol that I don't see them giving that up. Now, it's also hard to imagine the United States currently agreeing a deal that would allow Iran domestic uranium enrichment. So that's going to be extremely difficult in the first place. Secondly, I don't think that the kind of guarantees that Iran wants are really possible. And then, of course, there's the question of the International Atomic Energy Agency, the UN nuclear inspectors, who currently aren't in Iran. Iran is talking about allowing some new cooperation with them, but not about allowing them to inspect the nuclear sites, because many Iranians believe that it was the IAEA inspectors who gave the United States and Israel the information they needed to bomb those sites in the first place. And without that kind of inspection, it's not clear that either the United States or the E3 could see a way forward with Iran. So this deal is going to be very difficult to reach. And I think even an extension to which Russia and China would have to agree, and the UN Security Council would have to vote on it, even that extension is not likely to do very much towards a deal.
You've explained it well, and herein lies the stalemate in these talks, because, of course, as you say, Iran wants to continue to enrich uranium. At the same time, the United States says that is a red line. And then, of course, the Israelis have also suggested that they may not be finished yet when it comes to military action if they're not able to safeguard Israel's security and achieve their own objectives. So what role would you say the US and Israel are actually playing behind the scenes in these E3 Iran discussions?
The United States diplomats are probably encouraging some kind of progress towards re-engagement with the IAEA, and also an extension allowing the deadline for talks to spin out. But it doesn't seem to be a top priority issue for President Donald Trump at the moment. And in that scenario, it's not clear that there's much urgency on his side to resume talks with Iran, since his line is very clearly that he's destroyed the nuclear sites and Iran currently isn't enriching uranium anyway. On Iran's side, it's got this policy of nuclear ambiguity, where it's not saying how much the sites have been destroyed, where it's not saying what's happened to the enriched uranium as its main mechanism of defense at this stage. So that doesn't really argue any great progress towards the US talks, which of course are the important talks. The E3 talks are a bit of a sideshow.
Indeed. So just on that point, with regards to military escalation, what probability do you subscribe to that scenario right now, Laura? Because as I mentioned, Israel has said it reserves the right to strike again. And as you correctly point out, it would appear that this is not necessarily on the top of President Donald Trump's to-do list right now. In his view, the Iranian nuclear facilities had been, quote unquote, obliterated. So what is going to happen next here? And do you think that there is still the risk that we could see a military escalation if these talks fall apart?
For now, I think Israel would rather keep its involvement low-key. It's certainly still monitoring what's going on in Iran. There may be small-scale sabotage going on, or it may step up, including on the cyber level, to try and make sure that Iran doesn't re-engage. But to be honest, in the longer term, looking at the dynamics, looking at Iran's incentives and Iran's need to find some need of new route to security, and Israel's absolute certainty that Iran should not be allowed to resume its nuclear operations, I think that the current trajectory is towards more conflict in the longer term.